Welcome to the Cruise Retreat Podcast. Hi, I'm Rita Perez, and I'm a travel advisor specializing in, you guessed it, cruise ship retreats. This podcast is for service-based entrepreneurs and corporate decision makers to learn more about staying everyone's favorite company with a cruise ship retreat. Ready to increase your client or employee retention? Listen in on this week's show. Hello, happy cruisers! Happy Travel Tuesday again! This is part 2 of the River Cruise series, and we haven't done this in a while, but this is going to be a showdown. And I want to compare what I would call 2 of the beginner rivers when you start sailing on river cruise lines, and that would be the Danube River and the Rhine River. And of course, those are in beautiful Europe. Now, I have sailed the Danube River before, but I have heard of all the tales of beauty and wonder of the Rhine River. And actually, I will be sailing the Rhine River in just a few weeks. So I will be extremely happy to report on my experience when I return. I just cannot wait. I don't think you are losing one way or the other if you pick one or the other one. And even like I said, there's so much that I would love to do, especially on this Rhine River cruise, that I know I will be back one day. So just think about that too. Like, you don't only have to go on one river cruise. There are tons of rivers in Europe now that I am looking at it, and there is so much history and culture along these rivers that I highly, highly recommend going back for more, because another benefit of these river cruises is that, so somebody has said this will be the 12th time he sails on the Rhine, and no experience is the same, and you can't have really a repeatable experience because there are so many different theme type cruises as well. So my river cruise, and this is why I really want to help out you wine businesses out there, it is a wine themed cruise. So there is going to be a winery owner that's going to be coming on board and doing some classes on board. Can you imagine just taking your wine business clients on a cruise just like this that is tailored to wine, like very wine focused? I can't wait to tell you more about the experience, because you don't have to go even on a specific wine cruise. You can just go on any cruise, and many of them do have winery shops, winery tours, and that's one of the magical things about working with somebody like me who does have this passion for education and helping you grow your business, is that I love to create different ideas. So if it is just like a regular cruise, like there's no special things, meaning there's no special themes about it, I really like setting that as the baseline, and we can create special things, especially when you have certain numbers traveling on board with you. So just keep that in mind as well. So the Danube versus the Rhine, and I'm not going to pick a favorite at the end because I think they're both really worthy causes. I think they're both really worthy cruises. Wow. We are not even in Mercury retrograde anymore, and I cannot get over the flub-ups in my speech. Alrighty, so the Danube, where did I start? I started in Hungary. I started in Budapest, and I loved Budapest. I don't know if it's because it was the first European city that I had been in a long time, or I just loved all of its little charm. It's a little bit modern, but still has a lot of old world traditional, and I love that mix, because when I got to Austria, I did not really like Austria, and I know a lot of people really love Austria, but for me, I thought it was almost too modern. And I guess when I think of Europe, like, I think being able to go back in history. So anyways, we started in Budapest, and you know, one of the things that I had to do as soon as I touched down was taste the delicious Hungarian goulash, and my mouth is already watering thinking about it. It was so delightful. Now, this one was a Christmas markets cruise, so as soon as we finished eating, we went and headed out to some of the nearby Christmas markets, which were literally just a couple blocks from where our hotel was. And just, you know, you have like this idea of what experiences are going to be like, and they just in real life just get toppled in a good way. It's kind of like they get crushed. Like your imagination of what you think is going to be doesn't even compare to what it actually is in real life. And that's how I felt the Christmas markets were. Like just even seeing, they have those lights, and I don't know how many of you are big Disney people, but you know how in Cinderella's castle now, they do a lot of like Cinderella's castle is part of the show. They have a lot of animation on the castle. So they did that over in Budapest, but on a cathedral. I just thought it was so cool. And just all the delicious smells of food, the sweets, the savory, so good. And then just seeing all the different artisanal crafts as well. Loved it. I arrived a day early, and I'm going to be doing that for the Rhine River Cruise also. And then we did some exploration. And these river cruises are really great for Jewish heritage, particularly when we're thinking about World War II days and the Holocaust, of course. And there is a very notable memorial for the Holocaust survivor, they weren't survivors, these were the people who perished from the Holocaust. So it's like a remembrance memorial, that's what it is, in Budapest. So that was one of our stops. And that was also very interesting, too, to kind of see the different monuments that were set up. Like, there was a literal iron curtain that is set up in Budapest that you see. And just everything kind of, I don't want to say being like, oh, look at the Holocaust, but it is things that make us remember all the bad, tumultuous times of that period so that we don't repeat them in the future. And that's what I took of those different icons that we saw throughout the city. So I could keep gabbing along. Like, one of my favorite experiences along the Danube, and there's a similar experience on the Rhine where there's an illuminations cruise. Illuminations cruise are pretty much when they just cruise you on the river that you're on during nighttime, and you just see all the beauty and splendor lit up at night. It is a totally different landscape than during the day. Get it, like that black color, and then you see all the gold of the light shining. It is just magnificent. So what else happens on the Danube? Because this is going to get really long if I get into the nitty gritty, but it's just so charming. I'm so enthusiastic about it. So once we got out of Hungary, we get into Austria. And what I really loved about Austria, and what I still remember, is the deep history of the Habsburgs dynasty, which is related directly to the current monarchy in England. And I can't tell you everything about the Habsburg dynasty because I don't remember it, but it was really nice just being on the streets, and even the tour guides kind of like putting us in that perspective where one of the family members of the Habsburg dynasty was assassinated on the streets that we were actually walking on. Seeing one of the summer palaces is always beautiful, gorgeous. There was even a museum dedicated to all the carriages that this family had. So incredible, so ornate. Man, it's bringing me good vibes. I want to go back. From Austria, so we went to different parts of Austria, so that was one area. And then Austria, of course, is very famous for, the Linzertort, but not only that, Mozart and classical music. So I got to experience on one night an orchestra / concert with amazing, talented musicians and singers that performed Mozart's work. And it was, I wouldn't say I'm I listen to classical music all the time, but it was really neat to be able to hear different songs that I've heard performed in real life, but also things that I've heard, over time, and like in commercials and movies and TV. So that was a really nice experience. From Austria, we move up until Germany, and Germany is kind of where we end, and there were a couple different stops that we did in Germany. My favorite Christmas market, I think, because I felt like some of the other Christmas markets may have been a little commercialized for my taste, but I felt like a real down-home sense when I got to the Passau Christmas market in Germany, and it was kind of like, this is what I have been wanting from this feeling from all the different Christmas markets, because it was deeper, and it was a little bit more intimate, and they had a great variety of different items. Because at the Christmas markets, you're going to see all sorts of handywares. There are ornaments. Oh my gosh, the ornaments are so gorgeous. There's food, like, oh, my brat. My mouth is watering. I just want to eat a brat. Pretzels, roasted nuts, and just so many different things. Woodworkings, different handicrafts made in fabrics. There's just so much galore. Like teas, which I brought back home with me. And I remember like beeswax almost. There are tons of different stalls, and everybody has their own unique thing at their stall. And I know that it's not just Christmas markets, because I've heard they do this for Easter time also. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of different markets. I will have to report back what kind of markets I see on the Rhine River when I go. Your employees or clients mean the world to you, so why don't you show them the world and a thing or two? If you're ready to take your cruise retreat idea to a working plan, you need the Cruise Retreat Toolkit. Filled with calculators, templates, timelines, and more, the toolkit will get you 5 steps closer to your cruise ship retreat, and as a result of the retreat, more dedicated and motivated employees or clients. Grab it now at cruiseretreattoolkit.com and save $20 with the code PODCAST. But our last stop in Germany was in Vilshofen. And that is a small little town, beautiful. The cathedral that we went to, and they did even like a small organ concert for us, which I say small, but it was grand. It was really more of a private concert just for us who had come from the river cruise. Amazing, amazing. And we ended with a mini German Oktoberfest just for us. They had local children and local dancers perform in some of the traditional garb, and there was beer and cider and pretzels and brats. It was just so incredible. So those are some of the things that were a true highlight to my Danube cruise. At the end of my Danube cruise, there was an option to extend 3 nights in Prague, which was fantastic as well. So as you can see, the Danube, if we're talking geographically, it is more east than the Rhine River is. So now we're talking about the Rhine River. The one that I am going on starts in Amsterdam, ends in Basel, Switzerland, and has some stops in France and some stops in Germany. And I cannot wait. One of the biggest appeals to me for a Rhine River cruise is the beauty. Tulips specifically is what I'm thinking about. Chocolate, cheese, which pains me a little bit because I am dairy free right now. But I also know that there's different standards over in Europe, so I may be safe just to try, just to do a little nibble. I mean, you can't go somewhere and not have the cheese. Just give it a little try. But I also do not want to get sick, so we'll see how I handle that situation. So starting in Amsterdam, I am going to fly in a day early, and I'm kicking myself because I was going to do 2 days, and I changed it just to do 1 day, and I really wish I hadn't changed it now, but whatever, lesson learned. Again, I will be going back to the Rhine River one day, and so I'm not really worried about not having enough time in Amsterdam, because definitely won't be enough time this time, but I'll be going back. And one of the most prominent things that me and my travel buddy wanted to do was the Anne Frank house. So we have purchased tickets to go ahead and walk around the Anne Frank house. Again, lots of rich World War II history that that is available on the Rhine River if you are a big history and culture buff. This is a very special cruise for me because it is a business cruise, but it is also a fun cruise. But there are going to be a lot of business workshops, which for me gives me insight into how I can organize these types of events for you, because typically I haven't thought of a river cruise as a place where you can give too much or so much learnings, like putting on little workshops and classes. And I wouldn't like put too much intensity because there are a lot of things that you can do just in the regular river cruise programming, but I am interested to see how they intertwine that and how I feel. So I will definitely be reporting back on my findings on doing an educational trip along the Rhine, because normally I just say bring your clients there just to have a really great experience. But if you can do a little bit of teaching, I think that kind of ups the ante. And that's actually the reason that I booked this cruise, is for the extra educational piece. So, all right, moving on, just geeking out a little bit. So a couple of our first stops will be in Germany, specifically Cologne. And in Cologne, I think of Kolsch beer, which I won't be able to try Kolsch beer. But one of the things that I was really excited about, so on river cruises, they let you do some bike tours. So you can do bike tours independently, or you can hop on one of their tours. And this is another of the benefits of river cruising, is that your tours are included. Sometimes there are special interest excursions that are extra out of the norm, but for this cruise in particular, there's nothing, everything's all included. So on my Danube cruise, I'm pretty sure I paid for 2 extra like upgraded excursions, but on this Rhine River cruise, there's none available. If there were, I will let you know. And that's not, so some river cruise lines only do like 1 excursion per day. The river cruise line that I'm sailing on, which is one of my personal favorites, they do multiple tours that you can select a day. So there might be a morning and an afternoon, or just an evening tour. And that depends too, because you are cruising on the river. So you're not going to be in port per se every day. But okay, I'm digressing. So going back to the bikes in Cologne, so I've always wanted to try out one of the bike tours just to see what it's like being on a bike. We're going to be a little bit rusty, but that's okay. And one of the things that really like pricked my ears about Cologne is that someone mentioned Cologne is one of the flattest ports. So for people like myself who haven't been biking in a really long time, I think it's going to be a really easy port to kind of like bike around and do some exploration. So I think Cologne is going to be the one. Even though there's a couple different bike tours, I just think you know, one might be enough for me. Who knows? Maybe I have a lot of fun and decide to do more bike tours, but we'll see. So that is Cologne bike tour. Amazing cathedrals. Like, I am really excited. I didn't know that some of our France stops were going to include seeing, oh gosh, the Notre Dame. I'm like, what? I just forgot the name, the Notre Dame Cathedral. So I'm really excited about that. I am also a huge aficionado of astrology, and so there's going to be an astronomical clock that we get to see. I think maybe there's 2, because I will be doing some time in Switzerland at the end of the cruise. So anyways, yeah, so doing the Colognes, there's also gondola rides, which seem very, and I don't think this is in Cologne, this is in a different port. But the gondola rides, you pretty much go on a gondola, and this is not like a gondola like Venice. This is like an air gondola that you are just traversing the different beautiful fields that are underneath you. So that's an experience that I'm looking forward to. There is a wine hike, which, let's see, we may or may not do. Don't want to get too strenuous and overwork myself on the Rhine River. One of the gorgeous ports, and this is like really one of the reasons that I want to go, is to visit Strasbourg in France, because it is such a fairy tale city. And everybody, like Samantha Brown, who has visited, and I got to see like some of the sites that she went around, and then a fellow travel advisor has said it's kind of like, you know, the little town in Beauty and the Beast where Belle's like singing to all the country people? That is what Strasbourg is like. So I can't wait to have my little princess moment prancing around the beautiful cobblestone streets of Strasbourg. Also, at the tail end of this cruise, I know that there's a hike around the Black Forest, and I'm really torn because I think there's a castle or cathedral on one tour, and then another tour is to see the Black Forest. So I'm like, oh, which one do I do? Which one do I do? And this is, again, kind of like the security in me is like, don't worry, like, whatever you pick is going to be an awesome experience regardless. And just know you can come back. And I can't wait to come back and bring some of you with me in the future. We end in Basel, Switzerland. And from Basel, my travel buddy and I, we are going to be going to Zurich, Switzerland. So we're not going to be staying in Basel, Switzerland. We're just going to be taking a private transport over to Zurich and experiencing some of Zurich. Some of the things that we've thought about Zurich is doing some of the fondue, so we'll have to see. We both have food sensitivity, so we'll see if we can manage that. Also, chocolate. They do chocolate tours in Switzerland. There are also the Rhine Falls, which you can cruise around like this little portion and see the different Rhine Falls, which I would love to do that. And yeah, so that's just a little bit about Switzerland. So again, I'm only staying for a day. I am kind of limited on how long I can be gone, and I didn't want to restrict myself, but I also didn't want to be like, woo, free for all, because let's get real, like, travel is popping, and I need to be around here for my clients. So, let me know. I just gave you a lot of information for these wonderful river cruises. Please give me some insight. What are you thinking? Are you thinking you're more of a Rhine River cruise person? Are you more of a Danube cruise person? Would you like to know a little bit more about each of the cruises? Shoot me a message, and of course, I would love to gush with you. So until next week, I will see ya. Thank you for joining me on the Cruise Retreat podcast. Please subscribe and leave the show a rating on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to take a look at the show notes for important information and links. See you next week.